got dry and stuff like that.
Wow.
Like I got good.
Well, no, they actually have a game before that.
Oh yeah?
Yeah, I think better.
There are games.
Other than the screws, put in a little fiber and plastic, and you can buy these. You can buy these pieces. That's been one of the cool things, though.
So I brought 3 of the things that I consider the crown jewels of my collections, the things that you probably will never get to see again outside of an exhibit or a museum. First up is this Atellaview. This is a little peripheral add-on for the Super Famicom. It was a co-product between St. Giga, which is a satellite broadcasting company, through Nintendo, and Nintendo after the Sony PlayStation collab fell through. And so what's cool about it is that you could actually hook up a satellite broadcast to it, and it would download games to like a flash media cartridge. And you'd play games with a radio broadcast playing in the background, so you could have like live voice acting or like radio talks going on while playing a video game. And so there's supposedly only 31 of these in the United States that we know of, and less than 50,000 supposed ones are still around. This is actually the first time it's ever been on, is right now. It's running a 100-volt converter here, and then I'm running 120 up to the top. And so also went ahead and brought my Osborne 1. So what's cool about this one is it's actually the Canadian Osborne. The only difference is this little Landpar sticker right here. The Canadian company Landpar would buy out American Osbornes and stick their stag on it there. And so took the knobs off. I was actually talking to Lee Felsenstein. He's one of the people that designed the Osborne. He told me that the reason my keyboard didn't work was because the knobs were actually poking right into the keyboard. So rebuilt the power supply, rebuilt this whole keyboard, rebuilt both these floppy drives, and she's running BASIC right at the moment. I have WordStar, CPM, all the fun business class software on this guy. So this has been a month-long project of wondering if I should contact a financial advisor about my decisions. And then I have the Virtual Boy here. This is one of the American Virtual Boys. So it's the only big failure from Nintendo. It's got 32-bit red stereo graphics in it, stereoscopic graphics. What's cool about it is that out of its 14 games it has here in America, I own exactly 5 of them. And yeah, it's kind of just one of those cool things you don't get to see very often just because of the fact it did not sell very well. But yeah, it takes 6 AA batteries for 1 hour of play. But yeah, so that's all the fun stuff that I brought.
I focus on the tour stuff since I grew up with that stuff more. This is a little
Well, yeah, there's 31 of them, including this one registered.
Oh, you're using power inverters up on that. Yeah. I used it like twice, but it's kind of a pain.
You got the K-Pro.
So this is a 486 that I built in 2017, and I got started is on this build is because I watched the LGR wood grain 486, and or that YouTube video kind of caught my interest. Retro computing. One thing I did grow up on a 486, right? It was my first computer that I had. It was mine, and so that kind of got me started because I saw his video right on the 486, and I'm like, you know what? I should go build the exact same thing. So yeah, so it's kind of my baby. It's my first one. It has like an Orpheus. It's a card in there. It was a high-end sound card. Right, it has VLB graphics, and so yeah, I'm very proud of this machine. So. Very expensive. So here's the Auger Lite, and it is a Z80 based. It's a machine for CPU. So the processor, right, is Z80 based, but it has all the SP32 for all the graphics and sound and all that. So it's a really cool little, toy. Right, not very expensive either. It's running a demo of Elite. which is actually made by one of the authors of Elite. So it's just a demo, it's not the full game, but I heard he's working on a full game for it. So over here is Commander X16, right, made by the 8-bit guy. Right, it's his project, and this is it's a board 47. Right, the original batch of boards made, made the start of 23. So yeah, this is a great computer, and yeah, as you can see, it's all based off the chips, right off the ICs, microcontrollers, and yeah, it's a great little computer. It's a lot of fun and has a growing community for it. And then lastly, here is my newest addition to my modern 8-bit machine collection. It is running at 6502, but it's using the Pi, is it Pico, right, for the RAM emulation, right, the video and all that stuff. So yeah, that's an exciting computer that is just been around for about a year now, I believe. And yeah, it's a small community of people, but yeah, it's a very exciting machine at low cost.
Cases are worth a lot of money. They're only $100 a piece brand new. I don't want to pay that. And
Where's the tux? Completely awesome. Yeah, vintage computer radios.
It's a 6 megabyte cartridge.
I'm going to try to get this.
yeah,
Because the interface talks very fast.
I think she only puts up with it because I've got a fire extinguisher there too. Make sure you get a good shot of that. It's multiplex, so sometimes it doesn't come out on the camera.
Were your mom and I are friends on Facebook?
Oh, yeah. With what though? What are you talking about?
Also,
From your.
Call
I
it,
didn't get.
Oh, for the Wi-Fi?
I didn't get
I
that.
know it was for the Wi-Fi.
seeing you.
No, there's one for the
There's a-
Expo.
Yeah,
The one that
oh,
goes
there's
on.
one for the.
Balls.
what's it now?
Trying to remember the code next to
there.
First of all, I've got my displays for the Floppy Days and Antique podcasts that have been running for 11 years now. And we've had a lot of interest. So I've given out a lot of stickers. People love stickers. And a lot of cards. Also, we have a local computer club here in Indianapolis. Got sign up here. We've got a lot of new names. So that's always great. I've got stuff here from 8-Bit Classics, who sells vintage computer items. He was supposed to have a booth here at the show, but couldn't make it. So I've got his stuff out, and he's got a lot of great stuff. And then my display here. So what I've got is a remake of the Atari 1090 XL expansion unit that was announced by Atari but was never actually released. So it was recently remade. I've got a couple of cards for it. It actually takes, it's got 5 card slots in it, and it takes special cards. There's a 320K RAM card in here. There is an 80 column card in here as well. They're working on a FujiNet card and some other cards as well. You can see here I'm getting an 80 column display out of my Atari, and it's really crisp and clear. One of the thin clients, actually both thin clients.
Oh, cool. He's right here. I don't know. I mean, I guess just. Oh no, we're right here. You're stupid. Yeah. The digital is okay, but I like to have the mouse. You know, it's just like with books, like.
I prefer it over traditional.
Yeah. He's down and break that matrix. Really breaks a bunch of these points.
This is just
Just his rambling.
So anyway, they weren't available in the US because the FCC said too much radio interference. It's all solid underneath. Well, we were enough.
Oh, that's right. I just told you there was somebody from
Have you ever played the Pac-Man on here?
My first computer was at Texas Instruments, TI 994A. Somewhere in the first month of the year, maybe, I discovered Facebook Marketplace. And probably about 10 minutes after my discovery, I was in the car driving up to Carmel because a guy was selling 2 of these for 75 bucks. It's like, that will start the collection. And when it comes to these machines, I'm really liking the idea of not having to deal with the original media. So on that particular machine, there is a final GROM on it, which allows me to put an SD card in and put every cartridge ever made in one cartridge. So I've got that on the Atari as well, and I'm going to be doing that on the Intellivision. But this is I think the second machine I got. I don't have a big sentimental attachment to it, but this has always been kind of a cool machine. The Atari 1200 XL came out as the first of the line of Atari XLs. And I think they decided that they needed to come up with more of a hobbyist geared model and also maybe better pricing. So they ended up with the 600 XL and the 800 XL. I actually got those two from Randy, and they didn't work. They were spare parts for him, but he wanted to see them kind of go to a good owner, somebody who would give them some TLC. So I showed up at the meeting, had already worked out a deal, and I showed up and the people in the group were already diagnosing them and finding out. And it's like, I literally walked in the door, well, all that's wrong with this one is the RAM chips. Replace those, you're good. And this one, moments later, they're finding out it was the Pokey. To change that, it had a hokey pokey. But, you know, change that, it's actually in good shape too. This one actually didn't work when I got it. And so it was a lot of fun to restore, even down to polishing this particular, plastic piece, and also getting these nice and restored. Figured out the way to sand them to kind of get those off. What actually didn't work was one of the voltage regulators had shaken free from the motherboard because the heat sink just kind of floats free when you take it off. Well, on the side it said it belonged to a high school, so I can imagine it probably just ripped itself off by itself. I didn't do it, is probably what happened, and it didn't work anymore. So anyway, that was relatively easy to fix. I like fixing stuff, right? You end up with kind of an emotional attachment, a commitment. Yeah, because I did that. I like it. I actually won't have to fix these, but I'm thinking about putting a VGA port on the back. I actually did put a VGA port on the back of this thing, and it's remarkable how clear that is on the screen because of that VGA port. It was a lot of fun to kind of dig into the back of that thing and actually come up with a very good, almost factory connection on that. The trick is take your time, go slow, make the holes with a slow drill because otherwise you're going to melt the plastic. And then once you come even slightly close to where you want it to be, pull out the file. And then do a few strokes, check it out, just keep going back and forth, and you end up with something that looks pretty darn fantastic. Because you're going to be seeing that throughout the life of the machine, and then you show somebody else, and you're going to be like, well, I see how I didn't quite get this right. I actually put this on the back as well, that video port. The round one, the second from the left. The one on the far right is actually stock, right? That's the power. Well, I put a piece of tape over that one, cut out the hole, and then just moved the tape. So that's where the hole needs to be. And I just drilled and cut and sanded, and it came out great. That was a rectangular hole, and it was low, and luckily it just happened to fit. So anyway, putting that on there, that was fun. But I decided I was going to leave that one alone. Of all these, this was actually my actual machine. And so it was fun to have that. I did put the composite output on it because who wants to deal with RF anymore?
I do know where my original TI is, but I gave it to a friend. I'm not going to ask for it back. And the final one here, my Atari ST, I got that recently from Randy as well. And I'm starting to play with it. This is the Ultra Satan hard drive emulator with 2 SD cards. On the side, I've got a cartridge which gives Ethernet and USB. And that's kind of cool that I could use the Ethernet to copy files to it remotely. I could use the USB for mouse, printer, memory sticks, even the Wacom tablet would attach to that thing. We'll see how far I go, but I'm having a lot of fun. I'm even drilling into the motherboards to send wires from one side to the other. I feel like I'm an adult. I can take those risks now. No, Dad, it's mine. I can do that now. I'm allowed to. This is a machine that was designed and I think even manufactured here in Indiana. This is kind of a dead giveaway, maybe even one of the more rare pieces of the machine. It's a test module that even says, if found, return to this. Zionsville Road, that's nearby. Yeah. Well, it ends up that the guy who designed this loaned it to me, and there is a slight chance he will actually show up tomorrow, but he's a friend. He designed this because a particular company, I don't have the full story, I think it was like a component company, they decided they wanted to have a machine. This is a battery-powered laptop. The battery has had some issues, and late last night I was actually, I found out how much power that battery was doing, so I attached it with this thing open, and I just couldn't get it to turn on. This may be something that we play with a little bit in the vintage meetings and just see if we can do something with it. But the novelty of this particular machine is it's an 8088, that's not novel, 16K, 2 lines of 40 characters, but it has a Toshiba processor as well, sitting about here, and its job is to watch for key presses, input. And when it receives a key, it actually powers up the rest of the system, gives it to the software, and once it, idles, it basically settles back down, and that chip turns off the rest of the machine. So between keystrokes, the machine is off. So that battery lasts a good long time. Well, at least that's the theory. I heard the stories that was around it. And there's even a patent for this machine that the guy had gone through, and I was saying, well, how much power do I need to give it? It's like, well, look at the patent. Sure enough, 110 volts AC, 12 volts DC, and it's like it's all there. And if you even go deeper into this, the pictures, there's some operating system stuff, there's some details. It's like, oh, that's a lot of detail. But then you get back here, look at this, schematics, down to resistors. But I hope he gets a chance to come and tell his story. It's pretty cool. And yeah, people keep seeing this saying, what is that thing? I think I'm probably wrong, but I swear I saw recently that like 7,000 or 8,000 of these things were made. And when I open it up and look, there's a lot of bodge wires and other things. It's like they changed their mind or it didn't work. I think this is a production model, I'm not sure, but this is his resume. So he's enjoying having it, and he was quite willing to let me go in and see if I could actually resurrect it, see if we could get it running. Because as long as it looks right and he can tell his stories, I think it's good. And I was like, with any luck, my wife will want it out of my garage.
Unless they find a use for it. They're like, wait a minute, remember we made these in 1900?
Yeah. Okay, well.
You're also kind of looking at Steve Watts.
Let them have everything. Technically, still like some board of Apple.
Yeah, I had all the
I missed them.
Yeah. Yeah. I didn't know there was different sizes.
That's easy.
I think so.
That's how it
I got one, but maybe it's Savannah and the kids up here. Matter of fact, I got a.
So what I have here, these are the first two computers that my parents ever bought, and I just never got rid of them. This is a Macintosh LC2. The motherboard was replaced with one that got recapped, and the RAM's been upgraded. Here are the specs right there. It does have the 2E emulator card in it and a SCSI zip drive on it, and I've got some games loaded on it as well. And yep, and then over here is a Dell Dimension XPS R400 that is currently looping the 3D Mark 99 Max demo. It's got a 400 megahertz Pentium 2, an NVIDIA TNT1 graphics card, 384 RAM. It still has the original IBM DeskStar 12.9 gigabyte, 7,200 RPM hard drive with over 47,000 power hours and only 71 reallocated sectors on it. Got Doom, Doom 2, Quake, 3 Arena, Half-Life.
I got some really old stuff. Motorcycle. Yeah, that's a good one. Some really old stuff. Down there?
No, not yet.
Oh, you haven't got down there yet? Well, Chris will tell you. I'm sure he'll tell you all about the Trinity. But the three computers that came out. Right. Honestly, is
this your setup?
Yeah.
I brought some MSX computers. And so MSX is not a brand of computer, it's a computer standard. So in 1983, Bill Gates from Microsoft and president of ASCII Japan got together and they worked on a computer standard. And their idea was to sort of copy the success like the VHS tape success, where one VHS tape would fit in any brand of tape player. And so they wanted to do a cassette cartridge that would fit in any machine, no matter who made it. Of course, you know, prior to that, almost chaos in compatibility. Nothing played well with anything else. And so they wrote a standard. It's a Z80 based computer with a sound chip, a certain video chip. And if you have an MSX cartridge for the MSX1 world, this will fit in any of these machines and play. And even though this is made by Sanyo, it's a Sakar. This is Sony, that's another Sakar Sanyo. It's a Panasonic, that's a Panasonic. But all of them are compatible because of the standard. And the MSX standard evolved over the years. So the original MSX standard became the MSX1. These three computers are MSX1. This one is from the Middle East with the Arabic keyboard. And as this one's a later Arabic keyboard. This one's from the Netherlands, it's 220 volt. All three of these are PAL machines. This is it's the MSX2. The MSX2 from Japan, you see the keys are in Japanese. And that's a 2 plus. And so there were the 1, the 2, the 2 plus. And then there's the MSX Turbo, which I can't afford, but it's quite a pricey machine. And it is a dual processor machine. And only Panasonic made those. The MSX1, there are about 60 companies that made a version of the MSX1, and a few less made the MSX2, and a few less made the MSX2 Plus. And by the time you got to the Turbo, that's only Panasonic. They did very well in Japan and the Middle East and parts of Europe. Not so well in the U.S. A few of them did make it to the U.S., but people never knew they were MSX machines. There was a Yamaha one with a keyboard that's probably people would be familiar with, and a Casio, also MIDI, that were around in the mid-'80s, and quite successful, but not as a MSX machine, more as a music machine. Because it was a standard, they varied in lots of different ways. So this one was very unique. It's an ugly machine, but it's quite good. But this particular model, the AX170, was renowned for being the first machine that had Arabic characters, and you could write directly in Arabic from the keyboard. And this thing, they don't know how many of them sold, in the millions. And this is the next generation of that. This one only has one cartridge slot. As you see, these have two. And this has a bunch of built-in games. So it has educational games and, of course, games, and pretty good ones. And then this is from the Netherlands, and Sony Hitbit. And Sony had many Hitbit machines, so this is just one of them. This one's actually running RF on this PAL TV. This is the MSX2, a very good machine from Japan, and this is a very popular MSX machine. And then this third one actually has a built-in floppy disk drive. It has a built-in word processor. This particular one would have been geared a lot for a business machine. It has lots of business programs built in. And then on it, I'm running a modern multi-cartridge. This has a modern multi-cartridge. This is the backbit cartridge, but you probably know about. This one's running on its internal games right now. That's got a boxing game in it. And this is running the official licensed, made by Taito Space Invaders.
Can I ride on the back of your I texted, now I'm so much happier right now.
It's my goal to get one. We have a private room built. Yeah. So I was like, I need to get one of my card. Once I had all the Nintendo 64.
Yeah, you gotta start it. It wasn't this one there, and probably very hard to make.
There's one game that's made by Atkinson.
We used to take it to land and take away. And on long trips we could play.
So have a TI-99 4A here with one of the more, well, they're a little more rare, but the Texas Instrument PEB, which was an expansion box that TI released that allowed functionality for hard drive functionality, additional memory functionality, and they had RS-232 cards you could put in here, etc. The big thing for me about this was when this came out, it was pretty much unobtainium for a 8 or 9 year old little kid. There was no way I was going to mow enough lawns to get this. But now I have one, so we were able to successfully get this thing up and running this time. The only problem I have with this now currently is I've got a floppy drive that needs cleaned, but everything else does seem to be functional at this point, so that's a win. And then coming around is my, what's part of my Tandy collection. There's a little bit more down there, but the top is a Tandy 1000 TX and then a TL2. The TX for me was one of my particular ones. It was one of the ones in my retro journey. So it's special to me. I ran my first bulletin board, FidoNet 1:231-280 on a TX. And then of course TL2 just being a newer version of it. In my more modern retro days, if you will, the TL2's kind of become my daily driver because it had a date shift in it. But I do have a date shift to put in the TX, so I'm kind of thinking I might revert back to my TX for my daily driver. So we'll see how that goes. Next, we've got an Apple II. This is just a generic, plain old Apple II Plus, I think. Apple II is new to me, so I'm learning, and that's, again, part of the fun of this. When I brought this in here, when I bought it, it had no cards in it whatsoever. We've added a Disc 2 card with a floppy EMU, and then we've got the VGA card that'll actually give me VGA out on here. It's made out of a Raspberry Pi Pico, which is very cool. So we just kind of had this guy cracked open. We're playing around with some upgrades. I've got some additional upgrades here, hard drive card and etc. But I need to get a couple more cards for memory upgrades to be able to make this work. But hey, it does work. We got it running, and I'm learning about Apple II. So the next machine we got is just a Tandy 1000. We ran out of monitors, so it's just kind of sitting here. But this HX was my first IBM PC compatible that I ever had. I went from a Commodore 128 to this guy. Bought it at Radio Shack in Muncie, Indiana. It had 720K floppies in it when I bought it. And I got this thing home, and at the time I was into role-playing games and that kind of thing, and so the SSI Gold Box series, Dungeons & Dragons, I got with my HX. I get home, fire it up, get the floppy drive in there, boot it up, run the program. This program requires 640K. This thing came out of the gate with 256. I was coming from a Commodore 128. I'm thinking, this is twice the memory I had before. It should be great. Oh, no. Yeah, 640K ought to be enough for anybody, right? So anyway, that was an entire summer project where I basically mowed a lot of lawns in order to buy that Plus card to get this thing upgraded to 640K. But when I did, I was a happy dude. So that's what I bought. This year we decided I didn't have anything really to sell. I sold all my Commodores last year. So this time we just decided to bring some stuff to play with. So it's been an experience, and looking forward to next year.
Yeah, it's really just three numbers, so nothing else is good. We're really.
Job of web developer.
That's.
Oh.
Yeah.
There we go.
I didn't dig too deep into it. I was mostly just interested in the cluster communications. Yeah. Oh, yeah.
KRH Automotive.
It's a Gibson.
Yeah.
Brought several machines with me. We've got the Apple IIc. This is on loan from the two gentlemen over in that booth over there, trying to get something just to play on here. So this is trying to run Pac-Man on the Apple IIc using a micro SD card plugged into the external floppy disk port. This particular system here, we're trying to rebuild this up. So this is a PowerMac G4, and what we did was the system had no hard drive in it, so we're trying to reload it. This is a micro. Yeah. So what this is, it's an ATA, it's an IDE to SATA adapter, and then I got these little SSDs. This is a 32 gig. I have a lot of these at home set up using these types of drives. We plug it into the IDE bus. It's basically a brand new hard drive, and now I'm just trying to load up the software into it. So it also did come up saying that there were some memory issues. So I I brought my memory, and we'll try to max it out as much as we can. This is the Newton eMate 300. This particular system was used primarily in schools. Kids could type up word processing. They could hit the send button, and using the IR port on the back, they could position their eMate towards the teacher. The teacher has her unit, can hit the receive. Students' work can beam right over to her particular device. And it had a backlit display. This particular machine's an Apple III. Currently does not work, but there's a few users that have never seen one in person. So I brought this from the private collection, of course. This is the Apple II GS. We've got this loaded with a booty card inside, and then this little tether to a USB drive boots a hard drive image. And we've got this machine running. It's running the Apple II GS System Software 6.0.4, and it's got an 8 meg card in there that installs over here on the side, on the inside. Typically a machine like this is fairly stable with like 1 to 2 megs in there, but I went for the gold. We are also printing banners for people if they want to print banners out with our image writer too, and a completely rehydrated ink cartridge. The process I'll show you real quick with this. So the color cartridge has all 4 colors built into it. So you've got yellow, you've got your magenta, cyan, and your black. And to literally rehydrate these ink cartridges, I used mineral oil, and it seeps in, and it through a capillary reaction, it reanimates the cartridge. And I've printed out quite a few things today. Over here, we've got our Quadra 700, also known as the Jurassic Park PC. If you remember the you didn't use the magic word. This was the system. It's typically displayed upright, but for space, it can also be laid down. It's based on the Macintosh 2CI, 2CX platform, but features an 68040 processor at 25 megahertz, as opposed to its previous machines running a 68030 processor. And we've got a bunch of games in here. This is running an internal Blue SCSI with several hard drive images on a micro SD card. And then this is our Macintosh SE30, which is a 16 megahertz 68030 processor. The original Mac SE had a, I believe this was a 68000 processor running at 8 megahertz, I believe. I have to double check on that, but this is running an external Blue SCSI with a micro SD card, and we can load up different OSs using, there's a very simple app called System Picker. If we run System Picker, it scans the hard drive for viable system folders, and we can hit the pull-down menu and select any one of these operating systems for this computer to run off of. The Quadra 700 also has that same feature, but with a lot more operating systems since it supports a lot more.
But that's why I'm like, all right, well, let me get in on these things. Let me be the one. So like, all right, I'm in there, I started this, and I'm okay with that.
Yeah, it's crazy with some of these.
Did you already have the auction? Yeah, it's over.
It's done.
Yep.
You need a hat with a feather in it. As the auctioneer.
What we have with us primarily here start with an Apple II, and this is a replica of an Apple II Plus Revision 7 board. This is one that I hand built during COVID when I had a bunch of time available, and what we have in it are cards that for the most part I have made, with the exception of the 80 column video card and the 2 disc controller cards. I build everything that's in the machine. The slot extension cable that comes down goes to a VGA adapter that we build that let us use inexpensive VGA monitors on our legacy Apple systems. We also have a ProDOS hard disk 4-partition controller or emulator that we build. We're using floppy disk emulation, true full upper lowercase keyboard, just a number of the boards that we manufacture and provide to the hobbyist. We also have 2 other Apples here, an Apple IIc, and we're running the ProDOS 4-partition hard disk emulator on there. And for the Apple IIc, because this is the Apple IIc that I had in college, I never actually bought a mouse for it. And since the mice are so expensive, what we did is we decided using a standard 8051 microcontroller to build a USB adapter to go to the 9-pin Apple Quadrature mouse. So we have those available to other hobbyists that need to use a mouse with their Apple IIc or their Apple Bus mouse card. Apple IIe, we had people all day who have just been drawing in Dazzle Draw, which is a double high-res graphics program for the 2E and 2GS. And we're using that with one of our home-built mouse controller boards and with a VGA adapter. When I was just out of college, I also worked for an Atari service center for a while. So we brought two of the Atari home computer line with us. The 800XL, which is kind of the second generation, and then the very, very early Atari 400, which was a 16K Atari with a flat membrane keyboard, kind of your entry level for the Atari computers. So then from there, down more Atari, we bought an Atari VCS CX2600. This was their video computer system that was popular starting out back around 1977. So we're running that. We've got the later Atari video pinball machine, excuse me, which is kind of Atari's little downscale, little less money, but that was about a $75 computer compared to the video computer system, which was about $140, $160. We have a first generation Coleco Telstar, which is kind of Coleco's first venture. Coleco was a swimming pool company that was doing plastic cases for other computer companies. They decided they wanted to make their own video game. So that was about $99 back in 1977. And then the Atari Stunt Cycle machine, which is a really rare machine because I don't think very many of them are working anymore. And everybody wanted the Stunt Cycle because of the motorcycle hand grip that made it run. So everybody wanted that, and because of the big Evel Knievel craze back in the 70s, everybody wanted to be able to jump over the buses. So the Stunt Cycle allows you to be able to jump over buses and crash like that. So we can try it again, but yep, so we cleared 8 buses, so now we get 9 buses. The last machine we brought in, back when I was in high school, our science club bought a Radio Shack TRS-80 Model 1 Level 2 16K. So this is the machine that I learned originally how to program in BASIC on. And through a long story, this is the actual machine that we had in high school for our science club. I've done the restoration on this one, so we've got it running here. And instead of programming in BASIC, we've got it running Robot Attack from Big 5 Software. Which was one of the very, very earliest home computer kind of games. So this is the oldest computer that I have running in my collection, and it's the first one that I really learned on. So that's just a little bit of what we brought down with us for this year.
He's in a similar color to the RCA television. Yeah, that was quite hard to do. We're at number 2, right? But yeah, this was a $5 next actually right on the back of the controller. The button's missing.
And so I've got, I couldn't get power to it. So I've got the thing like this pretty much in now. I did find the issue. I beat you 2-1. You have this in the dishwasher. We'll play DDR. They can't stand the idea of bending things really through. Oh, I know what it is. So here's going to ask about
I carry a
and I had already emailed him, sent a message, say, well, that's disappointing. He's back. CEF, and they actually got fairly far through. About the game a little bit, so it's fine. I won't trust his ass.
Being our third endeavor, having 7 is great.